think there can be any strategy that I could figure out from this that makes any sense to me. I've heard some commenters say something about him trying to work up an incompetency defense of some sort, but that seems really strange. This is not a good way to do it. I think more than likely, Ann Taylor's got a really difficult client who's going to be a problem, and she's going to have a lot of trouble controlling him and getting him to do the things he needs to do to present a good defense.
In my last video about the Idaho 4, I completely forgot about the elephant in the room. So welcome to the point. Let's get to it.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
So who's driving this train here, or who's at fault? Some people blame the prosecution for these delays, while other individuals blame the defense. In my last video, I pointed out that I was blaming law enforcement for these delays. But a commenter on that video, Cricket Moon, brought up an interesting point. And after doing some reading, it's certainly worth talking about. And if fair coverage and an open conversation is something you prefer, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment down below. Because I hadn't even considered what that commenter said a possibility until doing some further reading. But let's lay down some foundation first. We all know the day the Idaho 4 were passed, it shocked the nation. You had local law enforcement getting on TV during police interviews and saying stuff like this.
I mean, to be honest, you're going to have to trust us on that at this point, because we're not going to release why we think that.
And a lot of that really did make a lot of us wonder, who on earth was capable of something like this? How could one person do what they're saying they did? Why is everything being handled so secretive? And in late December, a guy who looks like he majored in librarian is charged with the passing of all 4 of those individuals. And since he was arrested in Pennsylvania, a lot of us said he's going to fight extradition because he's not going to go back to Idaho. Primarily because Idaho's a DP state while Pennsylvania isn't. But then we hear this.
It is a little out of character. He said, I mean, this is not him. He believes he's going to be exonerated. That's what he believes. Those were his words. So he's really been very easy to talk to, actually. And he's in a calm demeanor, like I stated.
And countless videos and stories were ran on those words alone, while at the same time we get our first real introduction into Bill Thompson.
We expect that affidavit will be available to you so you can share the true facts with all of your readers and your watchers and your listeners and all of the people who are interested and really need to know what's going on. So please have patience with us on that. We hope to get that to you as soon as we can.
So who on earth would be eager to be exonerated in a case that seemed open and shut? And how on earth is this tied to my last video? Well, Cricket Moon left this comment right here. And in terms of Bryan Kohberger causing these delays either due to his possible guilt or innocence, this is completely possible. And before you say I'm being ridiculous, I found an article to back this up. Now, obviously a motivating factor for him to do everything he can to cause delays is because he did this. I know this is going to upset a lot of people, and I'm not trying to, but we all have to acknowledge that the vast majority of this evidence is sealed. And it is completely possible that there's something behind door number 1, 2, or 3 that points to Bryan Kohberger doing this. And of course, if Bryan did this, then he would know that he did it. And sitting in a jail is certainly better than sitting in a prison. And he knows that he did a pretty good job of getting rid of most of the evidence, and all the defense has to do is pull on just a couple of strings. So in his spare time, he's doing all the reading he can and sending that information over to the defense and asking them to file multiple discovery requests and doing everything he can to buy himself time. Because in terms of criminal trials, time is on the defense's side. It isn't on the state's. Now, of course, as far as I'm concerned right now, I see plenty of holes in what the state has. But if at trial the state can answer these questions that I've asked on this channel, and they prove that he did this beyond a reasonable doubt, then I think that should be good enough for most of us. But on the other side of that argument is Bryan Kohberger didn't commit this crime. And he has plenty of reasons to delay this thing until they get all the information they need to prove his innocence. Think about it like this. First of all, how much influence does Bryan Kohberger actually have over everything that's going on right now? According to this news clip I found right here, he has plenty of influence over what the defense is doing. Plus, he has the added benefit of this being a very high-profile case. And what happens to all these people who are named a suspect in these high-profile cases? Well, their entire lives are exposed for the world to see, to include their family. We've seen reports on the number of times the Kohbergers have filed for bankruptcy, and we've also seen reports that both his sisters have been fired from their positions. We've seen countless stories and articles about Bryan Kohberger's personal life, to include several of his friends. So if he rushes to trial and gets a mistrial, or there's a hung jury, what good is that going to do him at the end of the day? What good is it going to do him to go in half-cocked and not get a resounding not guilty from all the jurors? Now, at this point, his life is completely ruined. And in a scenario where he's found not guilty, it needs to be the type of not guilty that leaves absolutely no doubt in anyone's mind. Because anything other than that is going to cause a huge negative shadow throughout the rest of his life. And in terms of his ability to find documents and read up on his case, what else do you think he has to do all day in his spare time but comb over interviews and documents and review police reports? And you best believe that little bookworm is hitting over every single word with a fine-tooth comb. And let's be honest, how many public defenders have acted the way Ann Taylor's acted? Before she came into the picture, all we knew about a public defender was everybody was calling them public pretenders. Because she came out of the gate hot, and with the exception of a couple hearings, she's been on it and she hasn't let up. Is it honestly too far-fetched to say that from behind the scenes, Bryan Kohberger's pointing things out within the evidence in these reports with a perspective that defense team would normally have to pay for? We've seen Bill Thompson in these hearings on more than one occasion look like a deer caught in headlights. So is it possible Bryan is the cause of these delays because nothing but all the information is going to give him the result he wants? Let me know down in the comments below. Y'all be safe now.